Hi peaches, it's Shaaba, welcome back and thank you for clicking on another episode. Happy April, life has been super chaotic recently. In the best way, I'm very excited. I've just come back from my first ever songwriting retreat. So a lot of firsts have happened, but you know what's not a first? It's the second. My new song Ouija is out. If you're watching this video on the day it's released, it came out last Friday. I love this one. It was written, recorded and co-produced right here in my bedroom. And I'm super proud of this one. It's a little bit sassy. For all my spooky peaches out there, go and take a listen. You can stream it anywhere music lives. Spotify, Apple, YouTube Music, not on this channel. It's like a different thing. It works a bit weird. If you just type in Shaaba Ouija, you will find it. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your favourite lyrics, let me know what you've taken from the song, and if we can get Ouija to 5,000 streams by Thursday. I don't know if that's like asking for a lot. We're 150k peaches strong here on the channel, so you know that's a small percentage. If we can get to 5,000 streams, I'll be dropping a very, very special video. Something I've never ever dropped on this channel before. Something that's taken up huge amounts of work. Something that features people you may or may not recognize, and I'm waiting for the right moment to do that. So if you carry just a little bit of trauma and you two feel like you have grown from the experience and want to bop out, then stream Ouija, my little spooky peaches. Whoop. For now, let's go fishing for a-holes. You're through to 1-800-DRAMA, the show where you share your biggest dilemmas and I help you navigate them. I'm Shaaba, and with your help,
and sometimes mine,
let's help people figure out if they are the drama, because sometimes you just need an outside perspective and we can all expand our own mindsets along the way. Are you ready to dive deep into the a-holes? Let's go. Am I the drama for not taking the neighbours parcel? Oh, this feels unusual. My gut is saying, based on that title alone, yes, but these are normally the ones that surprise us the most. Let's see. OP is a 33-year-old man and has one kid, a 5-year-old boy, for whom he shares custody with his ex. He says, I currently live in a 2-bed rental on a quiet street with a row of only 5 other houses along the road, and I live on the end of the row. So what I'm guessing is this is a tight-knit community, and what you did by not taking the parcel was not very neighbourly. About 6 months ago, says OP, I took in a package delivered for the house at the other end of the row. Oh, so you have done it. The package was a heavy box containing a bag of dog food, and later that evening, the neighbour, a 38-year-old woman, came to pick it up. I know she lives alone, and I offered to carry it for her. That is very neighbourly of you. It also makes sense as to why you know it's dog food, because I was just like, how? How would you know? I'd be so suspicious of a giant heavy box, but there you go. She accepted the offer and thanked me, and as I carried it to hers, she kept commenting on the fact that I was being a gentleman and it was good to see in bunnies, big strong man in action. Ew. It's a bit odd. Bit weird, says OP. But whatever, I'm not that big or strong, says OP, although I do go to the gym a few times a week to keep myself in shape. For legs. When I got into her, she insisted that I come in for a glass of water and kept me there for an hour. Just chattering on. This would be so unbelievably annoying to me, especially if I didn't have the time, especially if there was no like friend chemistry click, and especially with those phrases, just, I don't know, for me, I'm just like, oh, I feel bad for you being somewhere that you didn't want to be because you're trying to do a nice thing. This entirely reframes the title. Let's see where it goes. The same delivery has come to me every month since then, says OP. Wait, I have questions. Like, this parcel is now being addressed to you, or she's constantly out so that every month, even though it's supposed to go to the lady down the other end of the row, the postie is giving it to you specifically? Because that just feels so unlikely that every single month, you've been there 6 months, right? When did this happen? 6 months ago. Every single month for the past 6 months, she happens to not be in for her own delivery, and the delivery driver has gone to every other house and handed to you on the other side of the row to give you that parcel. In the evening, says OP, she comes to collect and I carry it over to hers. Each time she'll try to chatter away at me inside the house if she can coax me in, or on the doorstep if I can find an excuse not to go in. This is mighty uncomfortable. Then last month, when she came to collect the package, my son was home with me. I couldn't take the box up to her as I was making his dinner. She complained that it was too heavy to carry herself. Assuming your dog is not 6 months old, what have you been doing beforehand? And that it would only take a few minutes. I refused, but I offered to bring it up later that evening. Whoa. Okay, you're a kinder person than I am. She pouted and huffed. Half an hour later, she posted a note through the door with her mobile number on it and asked me to message when I could bring it. So she wasn't expecting it that evening. I was going to say, because that is, like, you would go out of your way. I mean, maybe OP would. And therefore, OP definitely is a significantly more people-pleasing person than I am. But that means that OP would have to arrange childcare, assuming this could take like up to an hour, as it has in previous times, to ensure that your son is not left alone in a house, to take someone else's package that should be delivered to her door anyway, down the street. I was going to say up the stairs. I don't know why I think it's up the stairs. Maybe there's stairs. How bizarre. I had to feed my son, give him his bath, play with him, put him to bed, and once I'd done all that, I finally messaged her. She didn't reply until the next day, telling me that she'd been tired and fallen asleep. Then a few hours later, she sent through a long, rambling tirade. That's in all caps there. Tirade! That is not okay. This is not okay. You're doing a nice thing. What do they say? I've just got the Taylor Swift song in my head. This is why we can't have nice things. Give an inch, take a mile. That's the phrase. That is exactly what's happened here. The audacity for a neighbour to not only somehow have constructed, I'm assuming this is what's happened, a scenario where her parcel is always delivered to yours. I have a feeling that maybe she fancies you or something. Especially with those kind of comments, the age difference is not. Is she single? I have so many questions. Sorry, the ADHD is ADHDing. Where were we? Tirade! She told me I should have helped, that I was selfish. What? That I obviously hadn't wanted to help her, as I could have asked her to stay with my son whilst I carried it. And OP said, fair point, though it just didn't occur to me in that moment. It is not a fair point. She is a stranger. She is an entire stranger. I would not let a stranger look after my child whilst I went to their house to drop off a parcel that should have been at the house in the first place. It's not just me that's getting off vibes, right? Like, I am not letting you in my house with my baby, especially with my baby, but particularly with me not being there. She's already giving me like creepy vibes. I'm sorry. You don't say things like that. You don't do things like that. You don't like try and coax someone in and then be like, oh, I could have been at your house. No, you couldn't, babe. And she continued to say that if I really wanted to help her, I would have messaged her earlier. Get in the bin. Who the This was all sprinkled with some very colourful language. Wow. Look, I am a people pleaser. I know what it's like to feel like you have to go out of your way to help certain people, but this is taking the piss, and I would very much not be engaging with someone after this point. I was in complete shock, says OP. I apologised. What are you doing? And I said that I would bring it to her that evening, which I then did. I'd chuck it on the front doorstep and be like, pick it up when you want. I'm done. And the fact that that person would have your number now, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Mama Karma does her thing really well, and you better know that this lady is about to be stepping on some Lego. It's gonna happen sooner or later. Last week, OP continues, the day came again for that parcel to arrive, and this time I refused to take it. Good on you, friend. Good on you. She came banging on the door later that evening and screamed at me for not taking the package, that she now has to find a way to get it from the company depot, and that it was going to cost her a fortune. It's your parcel. Why? Why does anyone feel like they are entitled to your time, to your service? The fact that you've done this for 6 months, to your number, to your house, unaccompanied with your child. I struggle to believe that people like this truly exist, but I know they do. I know they do. Now, everybody along the street knows about this. Another neighbour, a 58-year-old man, has made it clear that he thinks I'm an asshole and has threatened to complain to my landlord about my unneighbourly behaviour. I really don't think I'm in the wrong here. So, am I the drama? Oh my god, no. You are so not the drama. The feelings and the thoughts that the title brings about, biggest plot twist. M. Night Shyamalan should have written this. I am 100% convinced that any single person that sides with this neighbour lady at this point is just that neighbour lady wearing a mask, because nobody in their right mind would call you the drama in this situation. What I do think you need to do though, because honestly the advice is significantly more important than the badge, what we do, the follow through in these things, that's the real reason we talk about these, right? To be able to learn, to grow, to prepare ourselves better for the weirdos in life before we end up on one of those nightmare neighbour next door sort of TV shows where things are getting severely out of hand. Report it to your landlord, especially if she's going around telling other people. Explain to them that this has happened, that she berated you, that she shouted at you, that she's come in and inconvenienced you and been very invasive to your lifestyle and made you feel incredibly uncomfortable with odd social advances, even if they're not romantic, it's not okay to like continue doing, like, read the room, babe, read the room. And mention that the only reason you're suggesting this is because negative image of you is being spread and people are threatening to report it, so you wanted to clear like your side first. You are not obligated in any way to take somebody else's parcel. You are not her PA, you are not the postal delivery service, you are not a depot. And if she didn't want to have to go and make additional efforts to go elsewhere to pick a parcel up, then she should have arranged to take delivery herself at her own goddamn doorstep from day one. Thank you very much. I don't know why I'm being so spicy. No, I do. Without making things too deep, this is the exact kind of thing that is very triggering to me. This idea that you're doing something nice, that you're being so selfless in your actions, but that somehow the narrative is spun so that you're the bad person, and now you're being painted that way to a group of people and have no control over that situation. It is a horrible position to be in, and it makes me feel like extra squiffy inside, because the idea of this happening within your neighborhood and your home is something that you can't really, come away from. The fact that she is this unhinged to be sending you foul messages and to be screaming at you suggests that she's willing to go further than most people, and it just worries me about what could happen next. Second thing that I would hugely recommend is to get a doorbell. I mean, yes, of course you need a doorbell, but like a Ring doorbell, like something with a video camera, if that is something that is financially accessible to you. And also it's worth mentioning that you can definitely have a chat with your local postie. Sometimes when these things happen, especially in these kind of situations, I think the postal service is such a pillar of our community. They speak with so many people, they know so many different stories, and honestly I probably would have had a chat with my postie if this was happening to me a few months prior to be like, why is that I keep getting this parcel? Do you think there's any chance that you could leave it on the doorstep, or ask that neighbour if there's a safe space to put it? And actually you don't need to give a reason. If you don't want to, you don't have to, much like with delivering this parcel yourself. But yes, I would highly recommend those three things: a conversation with your landlord, a conversation with your postie, and a Ring doorbell. Not the drama. Neither leaving your 5-year-old unsupervised or being supervised by a woman you don't know, especially since it sounds like you really don't want that woman in your house to begin with either, is unreasonable. I totally agree with this. OP, stand up for yourself, babe. It's okay. It's okay. You certainly didn't need to apologize, and you certainly didn't need to be like, oh, fair, yeah, I didn't think about this. You didn't think about it because it's not something a reasonable person would think about. Sometimes people have responsibilities that come before being neighborly, and sometimes people realize that something has moved from them being neighborly to another person taking advantage of their generosity. I feel like that was a kind call out, and one that is absolutely necessary. Not the drama. She's purposefully having the package delivered to you. You do not work for her. At first I thought that she was trying to date you. Me too. But you're right, the way that ended. And honestly, I'm still not entirely unconvinced that this is not true. That was too many double negatives. You know what I mean. You should never leave a stranger with your child in your house, and to be honest, she sounds unhinged. Also, any neighbours complaining are free to come and bring the package to her. I love that. Yes. Absolutely this. Where were you, Harold? Mr. How old were you? I don't think we had any other identifiers. 58-year-old man neighbour who is now berating me and calling me an asshole and threatening to call my landlord. Go. You go do the 1-hour drop-offs to the lady's house. Not the drama. Redirect any packages coming your way to the 58-year-old man. Do not help this woman again. This is the entirely right thing to do. Not the drama. First of all, leaving your young kid with a stranger unsupervised is a no-go. Secondly, do you really know what's in that box? I love Reddit's crazy theories. Look, I genuinely do believe this is just dog food. I don't think the ploy goes that far. But for a little bit of fun, Peaches, pop your fuzzy butts downstairs and tell me, wrong answers only, what's in the box? Thirdly, says this commenter, why doesn't the delivery driver just leave it on your neighbour's doorstep? If it needs a signature, then they need to figure out delivery time when they're home. And it can't need a signature, right? At least in the way that the UK service seems to work. If it needs a signature, it needs to be a signature from that household. So if they're able to leave it with a neighbour, then they're able to leave it in a safe place that is designated. I just think it's so fishy that for 6 months in a row, you're getting that parcel. That is not a coincidence, my friend. And this neighbour does not sound like someone you eventually want to have on your Ouija board. Ooh, drama. Am I the drama for not wanting my kids every weekend? Ooh. OP says, my ex-husband and I share custody of our 10-year-old daughter and 12-year-old son. We've got a 2-2-3 schedule, which usually looks like I have the kids Friday after school and he gets them Monday after school. Saturday, Sunday, so that's a 3. I get them back Wednesday after school, Monday, Tuesday, that's 2, and then he gets them Friday after school. And then the week flip-flops. Oh, this is so cute. Well, yeah, because then he has a weekend and then you have a weekend. I actually really love this idea. Wow. Did anyone read Jacqueline Wilson books growing up? I love Jacqueline Wilson so much. She was like my comfort author as a child. If you're not familiar with her books, you may be familiar with the show Tracy Beaker, especially if you're in the UK, which was a TV show made out of her books. Oh my god, she had some real gems. And there was this one called The Dustbin Baby. I don't know why I specifically mentioned Dustbin Baby because it's actually got nothing to do with this story, but it's about this kid that's in a dustbin. All of her stories many of her stories focused on family dynamics and being sort of a kid in a non-traditional family structure. She was also just as an author, so freaking cool. She lived in my grandpa's hometown and she'd often do like little readings and signings in the church, and I'd go up just like this squidgy tiny little Java toddler thing, and I'd be like, please Jacqueline, may you sign my book? And I would like be in awe because she just had such a demanding presence, but also she wore such huge rings on all of her fingers. They were so big. I'd never seen anything like it. I thought it was so badass. Anyway, I'm digressing so hard. Jacqueline Wilson wrote a book and I cannot remember which one it was. Clean Break? Something to do with a suitcase, I think. I cannot remember the name, but it was about a child who had two parents, both of which who remarried and basically spent their entire lives kind of yo-yoing between both houses. It's so good. But this is what it's reminding me of. And when I grew up, I always wished, like I wanted to be that kid. There's somebody else that I knew who went to my school who essentially was. Their parents lived on like opposite ends of the same road of which the school was on too. He had two wardrobes. He got to see them all equally. Whereas I kind of grew up having to do like a journey that took many hours between my two parents. And especially as a child, like when you're still, learning how to regulate your emotions, that feeling when you have left one side, no matter what side it is, to go and see the other side is never a happy one. I used to go into these like super big depressive phases after visiting whoever the visiting parent was at the time, because it switched a number of times. Because I'd be so happy that I saw them, but so sad that I had to leave. And I tell you, as a child, it's not nice to feel like you don't belong. So I hear that this is messy. I'm not saying it's necessarily like a wonderful system. I've not tried it, but it sounds really attractive. OP says, we have done this since our divorce 5 years ago and it works well. I'm a nurse in the OR. What is OR? Medical operating room. I knew that. OP is a nurse in an operating room. So I schedule my shifts for the day during the week when they are with their dad, and my one call weekend every 6 weeks is a weekend that they are with their dad. Cool. And I guess for things like special occasions, they just land on the weekend that they'd land on. Or maybe then you make like conscious efforts to ensure that they're like flip-flopped too. I love the term flip-flop. It's good like that. Flip-flop. OP continues. Recently, the kids said that they wanted to try splitting up on the weekends. So instead of both of them being with one of us during the weekend, one will go with dad and the other will be with me. My son said that he would make sure he was with me on call weekends because he can stay by himself if I have to get called in, or I can hang out at the hospital until I'm done. My ex is on board with this because he says it'll allow us to spend one-on-one time with the kids and will allow the kids a break from each other because they squabble occasionally and annoy one another. I mean, they are 10 and 12, right? So they're coming into those ages where I guess a sibling drama is just about to get spicy. A good Jalfrezi level, We're not quite Vindaloo. That happens with the proper teen hormones. Nobody's got another 3 to 4 years for that. While they have a point, says OP, sometimes it is hard to not feel like you're disappointing one by trying to accommodate the other. I do not want to give up my free weekends. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. It took me a few months to get used to not having my kids all of the time after the divorce, but now my weekends without them are filled with activities or with travel. My ex agreed. If there was a weekend trip that I wanted to take, he'd be fine having both the kids that weekend, but I honestly don't want to have to take his schedule into consideration when planning my trips, and sometimes they're spontaneous. Oh, I can kind of see what's happening here. Let's read to the end, but I think I have my badge. I was talking to my family about this at breakfast this morning, and they are all kind of appalled by me not wanting to do this. Nope, I've changed my mind and let's unpack it now. I think this is quite an arsehole-y move. I say this with the greatest amount of love, and I can see where it's coming from. Something that OP said that's particularly stood out to me is saying that it took a few months to get used to not having their kids all of the time, and now their weekends are filled with travel and activities. It sounds like initially that was done as some form of coping mechanism, and some sort of way to, there's a phrase that I really love that was like created by another creator, find your pink again. And it has nothing to do with the colour of my hair. Fun fact, flamingos, when they have children, have their colours drained out of them because a lot of the nutritions, the little protein thingies, the scientific word inserted here that makes them pink travels to their children, and over time they develop their pink back again. And a mum online started a campaign around that being a metaphor for parents still feeling like they have a sense of self whilst also growing a family. And I just think that's like such a beautiful balance to keep in mind. There is absolutely some sacrifice, a big sacrifice that comes with having children, but I don't think there should ever be any resentment towards your children for you choosing to be a parent. Like, obviously, if you're going to have a dependent that's going to be in your care, presumably, right, for at least a couple of decades, then you're going to want to make sure that you're not passing down any of those negative feelings and making them feel like a burden, because, babe, you chose to bring them into that world. They didn't choose to be there, for the most part, right? 99% of the time, that is a choice that you have made. And so I do genuinely love the idea that OP in this situation has been like, I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm feeling unsettled. This idea of motherhood to me is being threatened and questioned by this new situation that I find myself in. I know what I'll do. I'll focus on my pink. That's super cute. But I think what's not sitting right with me is that even when you are doing that, even when you are finding your own pink, you don't stop being a parent. When you are on call at the OR, you don't stop being a parent. When your kids are off to your dad's side, not your dad's, their dad's side for the weekend, you don't stop being a parent. Just because your kids aren't with you doesn't mean that you're not their mum. I guess what I'm trying to say is, whilst I understand the healing journey that your activities and your travel has come from, I feel like it's maybe evolved into something else that is now impeding your parental responsibility, or at least your perception of your parental responsibility. And I get it, maybe the kids don't have to spend that time apart, but if they're actively wanting to spend one-on-one time with you, or even if it's not coming from that place, but they do just need to spend less time with each other, this is the setup that they have now. That's quite unsettling for them too, right? To be having those two lives. They have a say in how they end up being this suitcase character from the book that I cannot remember the name of. Oh my god, it's bugging me, but it's okay. I do feel like that your job as a parent here is to listen and to put your kids' feelings at the forefront at this time, because ensuring that your kids have that one-on-one time and feel like they are in an environment that works best for them and accommodates them during these moments is more important than you having alone time holidays. That's not to say that you should never have time alone. I'm feeling two kinds of ways about this, because on one hand, like, I'm just trying to think, like, a kid in a quote-unquote traditional family structure, what is that? But you get what I'm saying. They would not have the ability to choose to not be with each other, but then they also wouldn't be having the complexities of a lifestyle where they are moving every 2 to 3 days. So you got to make that work for everybody. And you as a mum, if you're still enjoying those times, you can still have your alone time on those 2 days of the week when your kids are solely with their dads. And I have, this is going to sound so harsh, no sympathy whatsoever for the fact that it can't be spontaneous anymore. When you're a parent, that's how it works, babe. If you're out on your fun trip and you're sipping pina coladas on a beach and your kid's like, hey, I need you, you come back for your child. I feel like it's come from a good place. I feel like it's ending in a place where some tough love needs to be given. And so I'm going to give my badge now. You're the drama. You are the drama with small condolences, because I understand how difficult it is to make situations like this work, but also think about how tricky this is going to be for your kids. There's a reason they're asking for this, and you've got to show up as a parent. That's my view. My sister pointed out that if I was still married, then I wouldn't have all that child-free time that I have now, and my mum doesn't get a break from their kids like I do. Also a valid point. My mum said that she can't believe I would deny my children quality time with their parents for selfish reasons, like not wanting to give up my weekends. And my sister-in-law seems to understand where I'm coming from, but said that she'd still do it and just incorporate that kid into whatever I'm doing, and pointed out that my daughter would love to go on a New York City shopping trip, or my son would happily join me for a Saturday morning spin class. I totally agree with that. You can absolutely incorporate your kids into these things, and it could end up being more fun. The one thing that I will say is that I feel like you're being called selfish a lot, and that word we need to be a bit careful with, because it is a powerful word. And whilst I can see here where that's coming from, and I do to a large extent agree with what's being said, I do think it's important to note it's not always inherently bad to be selfish. Sometimes being selfish is a good thing, sometimes being selfish is an important thing. And I feel like what might be taken from these messages in the harshness that they are coming at it from is you are never allowed to have alone time because you're a mum. That is simply not the case. You are allowed to have alone time. You are entitled to go on trips. And when you want to do that, you can ask your support network, and that's where they take on more so that you are able to have that self-care and those little finding your pink moments, which is fantastic. But I do think where the selfish flips into being bad in this context is demanding that spontaneity. That's not something that you can have when you sign up. You sign that away when you become a parent, at least until they like you know what I'm doing, fly away, and you become a free nester. I considered all of this, but my sister-in-law loves taking her kids everywhere, so I don't know that she's aware of how nice it is to just be an adult without the responsibility of a kid wherever you go. Hey, I'm sure a lot of parents are very aware of how nice it is to go away without the responsibility of a child. But again, you're a parent. I think that's kind of where the buck stops on that one. They're really making me feel like the drama, so am I the drama? I stick with my badge. So intrigued to hear what other people say though. I know, especially of this generation, like a lot of people don't want kids. Trust me, I am so here. Like I don't want what I'm saying to be misconstrued. I don't want this to ever seem like what I'm saying is you must sacrifice your entire sense of autonomy and being and give everything to your child. That's not what parenthood's about. And you know what? You are very entitled to not want to have a child. You do not need to make a family. But if you have gone through the steps to do that, you need to take on the responsibilities. In the same way, a dog is not just for Christmas. You can't just fling your kids off because you want to have spontaneous holidays. It just doesn't sit right. You are the drama. I know it feels great to have your time alone, but you decided to have kids and they need to feel loved by you. It's sad that you prefer to do things on your own and not have obligations. No, that's where I disagree. It's not sad that you prefer to do things on your own or to not have obligations. For the record, I'm not a parent yet. I am a fluff mama. I have 2 adorable cats, both of which are very high maintenance in their own ways. That's not including my very high maintenance husband. Joke, kind of. Love you, Jamie. And of course, there are moments in my life where I'd love to not be tied down in that way. It's the only reason we don't have a dog yet, and we don't have kids yet of our own right now, because I know I'm not in a place of life right now where I wouldn't be able to give that out without feeling a level of resentment. But when you have that obligation, you can prefer to do things on your own. But sometimes whether you act on that or not is the mark of, I guess, what makes you a good parent. Not gonna lie, says this commenter, it'd make me really sad if my mum told me this. You just have to make do with the time that you have and take into consideration your ex's schedule when planning stuff. I have Marmite opinions on this comment and I'm so intrigued to know what you have to say. Please do share your thoughts downstairs. You are the drama without a doubt, and your family was being nice to you. Like seriously, you're treating and talking about your kids like they're some acquaintance. Your sister-in-law offered solutions, but because they care enough to bother to be around their kids, you don't think that really counts. This is coming from a very harsh place. I really don't agree with what this comment is saying. Before people start insisting you are forcing her life to be kid-centered, this literally isn't that. It's a weekend. Grow up and actually be a mum and stop pretending your trips are more important. So, you know when people say things are not helpful, and if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all? This is one of those situations. I really don't think anybody should feel guilted into feeling bad about wanting to not be around their kids all of the time. What did they say? You're forcing her life to be kid-centered. You are. These kinds of comments, you are. They're not coming from a kind place. They are not coming from a productive place, and they're purporting a message. You're not allowed to be your own person as soon as you have a child, which is absolutely not the case. You are the drama. You cannot pick or choose when you want to be a parent. Oh, no drama here. Your children are not neglected or uncared for. You work and have a schedule that's fair and functional. Siblings often don't get along, but if you and your ex were still together, you wouldn't suddenly send one of them to live in a different house so they could get away from each other. Having kids doesn't mean your entire identity revolves around them. You've got a great work-life family balance right now, which is solid. A lot of folks have a kind of martyr stand when it comes to parenting. If you don't spend every available moment on your kids, you're somehow a bad person and an irresponsible parent. I agree with everything being said here, and I agree that that is the really damaging trope that I feel like some of these commenters are really channeling. Keep the schedule as is, says this commenter, and don't let anybody guilt you. I'm really glad that I've seen this comment because I feel like it's kind of providing the two sides. The only thing that doesn't sit right with me personally is this idea that you can say, well, you know, if we were in a traditional family structure, your kids wouldn't be able to live in different houses. Totally agree with you. At the same time, those kids in a traditional family structure don't have the unsettlement of a 2-2-3 lifestyle. Like, that is something that I don't think I wish I had it. I can see the problems, but I wish I had that. Even acknowledging or anticipating what the potential complications could have been. I do think maybe this view is not taking into account the feelings, like putting yourself in the position of those children and the lifestyle that they're having with that unsettlement. It's still only been 5 years, right? During these really formative years of personal development. I know, if my kid is saying to me, hey, I want to have some personal time, I'm going to allow you to have that at least on a temporary basis to understand where that's coming from and to make sure that they're okay. Someone else replied to that comment and said, I'm saying no drama here because I'm one of those bitter people. Lady actually carved out time to be a person and everyone's acting like she's trying to sell her kids or something. Oh my goodness. I have never been more curious to know what you would think. Let me know. Oh, drama. Alright, our final submission today is from a fellow Peach. Remember, if you would like to submit your own drama to the 1-800-DRAMA podcast for consideration, you can do that over on our Reddit, r/1-800-DRAMA. This Peach asks, kind of states the drama for pushing my girlfriend into outing. Interesting. Hello, fellow Peaches. Hi, my love. As you've probably gotten from the title, I'm very probably the drama in this situation. However, recently someone has told me that I'm not. So I'd like a third opinion, but mostly advice. You do your thing, Peaches. Whilst I'm fairly certain that I am in fact the drama, and should have acted differently, I'm not clear on what the right path would have been. My girlfriend, 29, and I, 28, have been friends for many years before I realised that I fell in love with her. I'm assuming, because you're talking about like outing, girlfriend, LGBT plus relationship, I'm assuming that you're a same gender couple. Our friendship group is mostly very queer or vocably allies, and our families are very live and let live, love that for you, and have both voiced allyship before. So I didn't think that telling them that we got together, which automatically would be a coming out, okay, so definitely same gender relationship, would be much of an issue. In the weirdest and kind of most fitting conversation of my life, we agreed to become a couple, which made me very happy, but then she also said that she didn't want to change anything, which confused me to no end. That would confuse me too. I I also feel like I was that person. When I first started going out with Jamie, I was like, I don't know what this means and I don't want to stick a label on it, and can we not do anything because I'm mighty confused. I knew that what we had was more than a friendship. I knew that I wanted there to be more. Honestly, looking back now, I can just see so much stigma that I was afraid of and so much sense of self that I had to understand in my mind, which then happened over like a couple of weeks before I felt confident to share about the relationship myself. You know, I had to share it with myself. That's the thing about coming out. When you come out, people forget that the first person you come out to is you. It's okay to have that time, babe. At the same time, I can so see here, Peach, why you would have been very confused. Like, sorry, we're friends, but now we're more than friends, but you want to act as if nothing has changed. Now, I need very defined relationships with people, says OP, because otherwise I start overthinking. Hear that too, which I did hear, and in consequence started to pester her with questions. However, she didn't need nor want things to be this defined. I want to add here that she's been insanely patient and kind with me in this, although there was a lot of other stuff happening in both of our lives at the time. She didn't want us to tell anyone yet, which she didn't voice like that, but always said that this wasn't the right opportunity. Fair. Okay. This becomes infinitely tricky, right? Especially when it comes to things like personal identity, and in this situation, like being very obviously outed through the relationship that you're in. I so hear the want for a defined relationship, and you deserve that in a relationship. But I also hear that you shouldn't be outing people, and people need to do things in their own way. And it's also fine to navigate without putting a label on something. And it's also important to feel like for you, away from the relationship that you're in, you are coming out on your terms. So I can see that this is a very big grey area. I have to say, right now, Pete, just don't think you're the drama at all. I'd actually say there's no drama here. Let's read on. I respected that, says OP, but at the same time kept asking because I didn't get that she really didn't want to. And also, I totally understand that because she's not made that clear. She's not said to you, hey, I'm not feeling ready yet. She's just kind of deferring it without addressing the conversation. There's this like giant pink elephant, right? That you're like, hello, let's talk about this. This sent me into a stupid spiral of trying to figure out if she loved me back, because while she said that she wanted to be a couple, she's also become more distant and would start verbally bashing, or no, and stop doing anything that could be considered couple things. So I got quite anxious about the topic, which in turns made me annoying. I feel like the accountability, but I wonder if maybe you're taking on too much accountability that it's sort of like obscuring your objective perspective on the situation. All that to say, I really hope you're giving yourself some grace. Also, I knew I would really hurt my family by not telling them, but I still didn't for about a year. That's where it gets tricky, right? You're entitled to navigate your identity and feel proud about who you are, especially when that bleeds into the relationships that you're in. But when your partner is also entitled to that same thing and those two things like aren't compatible at this exact time, I can see the trickiness. Oh. After that, I decided I would tell my family, who are quite concerned about why I hadn't told them. They asked about when we got together. The problem is our families know each other. Oh. So to avoid any awkward situations, we'd previously decided to tell them at the same time. Oh, there was a huge pit in my stomach because I feel like you made that decision by yourself, but no, you spoke to your partner and you both said that you would tell them. This is fine, you're not the drama. That would have made you the drama, but you're not the drama. No one is the drama. There's no drama here. Before I told my family, we talked and agreed to both do it, so I did. And at this time, however, her grandma was really sick and in hospital, which makes me even more of the drama. I know it doesn't, babe. It's not your fault. Oh. So she didn't tell her family. That was 6 years ago, and she still hasn't, because as I now know, wants to tell them something at the same time that comes with a bit more complications. Oh, well, then that's definitely not a you thing, and you do deserve to be confident and feel secure in your relationship and your identity. So was I the drama, asks OP, for pushing her into an outing with my family? She wasn't there, but she's been part of my family for a long time before. And what should I have done to avoid pushing her into it whilst also not hurting my family? Honestly, I don't think you are the drama. Truly, I do not think that you're the drama. I also don't think that your partner is a drama. I know it sounds really weird because this is clearly a very dramatic situation, but there is no drama here. That is my badge. At the end of the day, you should feel within your right, the royal you, not just you, Peach, anybody should feel within their rights to be as proud and as loud about their identity as they wish to be. It's tricky when those two parties coincide, and it's tricky when they're different. This to me is no different to someone being like, I love you, but I don't want kids, and someone else being, I love you, but I do want kids. It's a horrible situation to be in where you're both very entitled to want that for yourself, but perhaps it suggests an incompatibility. Being LGBT myself, having a very large network of LGBT plus friends, I've seen countless times people not feel like relationships are compatible, at least not in that moment. It doesn't mean that it will be like this forever, but for that moment, this need to respect someone else's privacy, which is absolutely a need. is like water and oil, and it just doesn't quite work with the need, because it's also a need, to express your identity in the way that you want. Sometimes those two things just don't mix. And if that feels too much for you, I'm thinking about so many situations where somebody's very out and proud and the other person's very closeted, and little microaggressions just really make them feel bad about themselves beyond that relationship. They can't hold hands with the person that they love, or someone like slowly berates them or gives them eyes for saying something or doing something that may in any way be construed as romantic because they're feeling insecure about that. It's a very sad reality that we need to live in, because this world has a lot of stigma, and in those situations you are entirely within your right to not want that, but they are also entirely within their right to not want to progress their coming out if they are not ready. That's what makes that such a horribly morally hard dilemma. At the same time, I am so convinced that you're not the drama. I don't want you to be holding accountability for something that isn't your fault, in the same way that I wouldn't want your partner to do the same. I'm not suggesting that you break up. I'm just suggesting that you acknowledge with each other that there is no drama, no accountability to be had in that situation, and just check in with each other. This is not the ubu moment that I was expecting, but check in with each other to make sure that at no point in this journey the weight and burden of managing that momentary incompatibility has an effect that affects either of your sense of selves. I really hope that makes sense. No drama here. Oh, phew. I'm glad that we've had a couple peach comments, and I'm very glad that I'm at least on the same page with one person. However, 6 years and she's still not out. If it's bothering you as it seems, you're totally legitimate to talk to her about it and to go your own way if it's not something that you can endure any longer. Bury this. You said that you talked and agreed to both do it, so why would you be the drama? This commenter has also said, when my wife and I got together, it was a similar situation at first, where we were longtime friends who weren't out until we started dating. I didn't want to come out at first, and my wife made it clear that whilst it was my decision to come out or not, she wasn't comfortable dating someone who was closeted. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And the relationship would have to end if I couldn't be forthcoming about a relationship to my family. Thank you so much for providing in a more succinct way what I was trying to say. This didn't make her the drama, and it wouldn't make you the drama if you decided to do something similar. I totally agree. And it's all about the way this is intended, right? It is not an ultimatum. What you are not saying is come out or else I'll break up with you. What you're saying is you're entitled to feel this way and I'm entitled to feel this way. And if this isn't working, then right now us can't be a thing. And that is a-okay. It hurts, it's painful. You are perfectly within your right to do that. Peach is listening to this podcast, whether it be on Spotify or another podcast platform or over on YouTube. This gorgeous little peach, we didn't have a name from OP. Just a little reminder, if you are going to submit your own drama, please do give us some form of identifier. It could be something like Stinky Onion if you don't want a name, but do give us something. If you could help this OP out though, if you have something that you'd like to share with them, feel free to head over to the Reddit itself, and you can do that in the comment section. It's always nice if we can help our own community out. This is a fun one. Thank you so much, Features, for joining. Please remember that you can rate each individual episode on a podcast platform as well as the podcast itself. You can drop a little like on this video. You can subscribe if you'd like to see more. We do these videos every week. And please, please, please stream Ouija. I would really, really appreciate it. And I'd love to know what you think. For now, I will love you and leave you. I'm about to do my first paid gig. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.